Dr. Bruce Bennett, Senior Defence Analyst in R&D Corporation, expert on Korea, answers questions on UATV. Doctor, hello.
Hello, good to see you.
It's good to see you too. You probably heard the last part that I was talking about build. I was a bit enraged, but I'm not going to
Yes.
ask any. Yeah, all right. So I'm sorry for that, but I'm not going to ask you any questions on build publications. But North Korea, my first question. Is North Korea really that closed to the rest of the world as we think? Because it seems like it does some trade and some political contacts are held. Or am I wrong?
Oh, it does trade primarily with China. 90% of its trade in the last, 5 or so years has been with China. So it's pretty closed. With COVID, it closed down even more. Now it's opening up a little bit, but it appears that Kim Jong-un has concluded that the most dangerous thing to him is outside information. His people are starting to realize that the regime is telling lots of lies. And so as outside information percolates in, he's in jeopardy. I mean, Kim has even said K-pop is a vicious cancer that is corrupting the morals of his younger generation and could cause his regime to collapse like a damp wall. So he's trying to put the wall up and to keep outside information out. But to do that, you've also got to keep outside trade out. So it's largely isolated.
K-pop can bring down the Kim Jong-un's regime. That's the moment that I've started loving K-pop right now, right over here on this very spot. But so when we say North Korea, we say Kim Jong-un, his power is like absolute and there are no personalities and forces to establish contact with, aside Comrade Un. Is that the case? So can we be talking to someone right now, or is that impossible?
Oh, we can certainly talk to his elites. Some information permeates into the elites and it gets passed around from them. We should be definitely focusing on that. Think about it from the elites. They've got individuals who are working overseas in commerce, in diplomatic issues and so forth. And those people are sending information back to their families. We ought to be speaking to them, but we also ought to be using capabilities like Voice of America, Radio Free Asia, defector radio links to try and communicate information into the North to help affect the opinions of the elites.
I just wonder if these people that are working overseas from North Korea, do they listen to the K-pop, you think?
Oh, absolutely. Not a question.
There we go. So in South Korea, a Ministry of Unification exists. Whatever that means. So helping to understand, what is it? Does it mean that South Korea has still not abandoned all of the hopes for unification, really?
Oh, South Korea hasn't abandoned unification at all. It's in its constitution that one of the requirements on South Korea is unification. South Korean constitution also says that all of the Korean peninsula is part of the Republic of Korea, South Korea. So from their perspective, unification is absolutely a task for the government. And the Ministry of Unification is pushing forward. But the more important thing to note is South Korean President Yoon did not accept Kim Jong-un's statement that he was renouncing unification. President Yoon on August 15th made a major speech where he said, freedom-based unification is what I am going to focus on. And so the Unification Ministry has put together a major program on freedom-based unification.
Right. Well, interesting times we're living in, isn't it not? Well, Indeed. So the North is so confident, really, in its military power that is preparing for what it's called, I recently heard it, a holy war with South Korea, really. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but just K-pop and Samsung can deliver the blow that the North can't stand. Or am I wrong? What are the chances of sides?
Well, I think we have to remember that for Kim, much of what he says is for propaganda purposes, both against South Korea and with his own people. You know, Kim can't make his economy work. His economy has failed, largely speaking, and he's even admitted that now. So he's got to still appear empowered, or at some point, his elites are not going to let him continue in control. So he's trying to appear like he's very powerful, very capable, and we have to decide how to try and penetrate that and overthrow that appearance without causing a war. It's one of those difficult propositions.
So help me to understand. To be looking more empowered and powerful, he sends his troops to Russia, right? Is that right?
Well, we have to back off and say there's a much bigger reason there.
Sure.
Kim has been sending tremendous amounts of historical artillery stocks. I mean, the North Koreans follow the Russian model. You build, and then you build more, and then you build more, and then you build more.
Right.
And you don't get rid of anything you built. Well, so they've got artillery stocks from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they've been building up. So Kim has been sending those stocks. Now, it's not very good stuff. It's old. Sometimes it's exploded when the Russians have tried to fire it. But Kim is apparently exhausting those supplies. As he sent those to Russia, he's been getting lots of money. His own economy is failing. He hasn't had the money to buy food or consumer goods. So the Russians have been giving him food and giving him money to buy consumer goods. That's helped him to manage his own internal instabilities, and he has substantial internal instabilities. So now that he's exhausting those supplies, how's he going to get money from Russia? Russia isn't just going to give it to him because they're good guys. And his answer appears to be, well, I'll send troops. They'll pay for my troops, and that'll provide me the money I need.
Well, some of these troops just desert when in Ukraine. That's an interesting thing. North Korean soldiers desert from Russian army invading Ukraine. Ain't that, a B-class Hollywood movie without a budget or something like that? But anyway, that's what's happening. And thank you for clearing the fog for me and my audience, Mr. Bennett. And it was a pleasure to talk to you.
My pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so very much. We do it again soon. Goodbye. Dr. Bruce Bennett, Senior Defence Analyst in RAND Corporation, expert on Korea, was just interviewed by me, Henry Keane, on UATV English.